Hello and welcome to the International Bipolar Disorder Foundation FastByte with myself, Julie Fast. I'm here today to talk about bipolar disorder and work, and it's actually a great time for me to make a video because I have literally had trouble with work all day long and have had trouble with work for the last couple months due to very high anxiety and trying to do a project that intellectually, of course I could do. Like all of us with bipolar, no one's ever going to say we have trouble coming up with work itself. Content is usually quite easy for us, but the process of working can be so hard for us. And I thought I would share today what I do to get through this, how I deal with my panic attacks, how I manage to get as much work done as possible while having bipolar disorder. I'd like to start with a story. A few months ago, I decided to start a new book. The book is needed. I have the skills to do it. It's a book for couples. One of my specialties is helping partners of people with bipolar disorder. For those of you who know my book, Loving Someone with Bipolar Disorder, you will know that I was in a relationship for 10 years with someone with bipolar, and I also have bipolar disorder. So this is a topic near and dear to my heart. I wrote my agent, people are interested, let's get it done, right? And in order to get a book deal in traditional publishing, you have to write a proposal. This is about a 60-page document that includes all of the info on the book, why people would buy the book, a big marketing section, a sample chapter, and a table of contents. Well, that thing just kicked my behind. I normally like writing proposals. They are interesting and fun. This time, I struggled and I struggled and I struggled. I'd like to show you some of the process, let you know what happened with this book proposal, and share the world of what it's like for those of us with really severe bipolar disorder who still want to get out in the world and get things done. I think that describes most of us. So if you're someone who loves someone with bipolar disorder, I hope this will give you an insight into why work is often so difficult for us. No one will ever deny that ideas are a problem for people with bipolar. I'll hold this up for a minute. I, like many people with the illness, often think of what I want to write, what I want to do, how I want to do it. I'll outline it, I'll design it. I have a great time in this process. Sometimes I'm hypomanic, sometimes I'm not. I don't really allow myself to do too much work when I'm hypomanic. I rather tell myself that it's time to manage bipolar, so I don't let myself work as much. But this gives you an idea of the kind of charting and work that I do when I'm working on a book. And you'd think, wow, if all those charts can come out, this must be pretty interesting. Here's an example of how then I take the ideas and put them in a notebook and just start note after note after note of getting this book done. I felt confident about it. I thought it's a great topic. I've written a couple books, well, many books before. This should be okay. I couldn't do it. I couldn't breathe. I would wake up in the morning and I would start crying when I opened my computer. Luckily, I'm doing the book with a co-author who is a nurse practitioner who's a friend of mine, and she tried to help me. My agent was understanding, my family were understanding, my friends were understanding. I asked for help. I did everything that I should do, and you know what? I couldn't do it. About 3 weeks ago, I decided to stop the project. Not forever, but just in the moment. And within a couple days, my anxiety was down and I was back to being more like myself. Bipolar disorder is an illness that's triggered by outside events. It's not fair and it makes no darn sense. But the anxiety and the depression and the paranoia and the worry that I feel when I have a big project these days, sometimes it's just overwhelming. So what am I going to do about it? Well, I did write a book called Get It Done When You're Depressed. And in this book, I talk a lot about how to get the small things in life done, such as these kind of videos. This kind of work is very hard for me. It makes me very hot. I'm actually just going to take off my jacket. I find myself having breathing problems, not being able to foresee the future where I'm actually getting the work done, thinking that I will never do a book again, getting upset, getting overwhelmed. And that's just what my life is. And if you have bipolar disorder, you might be going through the same thing. I eat too much, I worry too much, I have trouble sleeping. This is part of our illness. It's why so many people with bipolar have trouble working. So what can we do about it? Well, we can know that we're going to get hot and sweaty and nervous and maybe not too eloquent when we're doing videos. We can make a list for ourselves of what we need to talk about instead of memorizing it. We can go easy on ourselves and find work that we actually can do. And that's what I'm doing. So when I left this big project, I didn't leave it forever. I let my agent and my co-author know I just need a break for a couple months, and I took that break. Did I cry about it? You bet I did. It's horrible to not be able to work because you have an illness. I can either fight this or I can live with it and learn to work around it. And I'm choosing to work around it. I do a lot of weird stuff to get myself going. You might notice this odd bouquet of flowers, but that's because today when I was getting ready to do this video, my panic attacks were so bad, I had to do something to take my mind off things. So I thought, I'll go cut some flowers and put them in front of the video. I am not wearing very much makeup because I was too anxious to put on the makeup. But I wanted to share that I still keep going. The video still gets made. I still go out. I still see my friends. I still do my coaching work, my smaller writing work, and the work for the International Bipolar Foundation. When you have bipolar disorder and you want to work, you have to figure out what works for you. I have figured out what works for me. I can work part-time. Anytime I start to work over 25 hours a week, the bipolar happens. I hit what I call the bipolar brick wall. That's where I'll start losing sleep. I get paranoid. I start worrying. My work never suffers. That's something that's interesting. You might be like me in that the quality of our work pretty much stays the same, but the stress that goes into doing the work. I have a motto of treat bipolar first, and so if I take on a job that's too much for me, I really don't have an option. I have to leave that job if I want to take care of myself. So now I find work that lets me keep my bipolar disorder in check. I realize that writing a proposal for my book means it's going to have to take a long time. It doesn't mean that I don't get a new book deal. It doesn't mean that I don't write new books, but I can't do them in the speed that I used to. I simply can't. Another thing that's very important is that I ask for help. I'm aware of what I can and can't do. Administrative kind of behaviors such as answering emails, going over bills, paying for things. It's very hard for me. I find it much easier to get up in front of a big crowd of people and speak than I do answering my own email. So figure out what in your work repertoire is something you can pass on to somebody else. You can trade. If you've got money, goodness gracious, use it and hire somebody. But getting a list of what works and doesn't work for you is paramount if you do want to move forward with working. I want to share with you the reality of this, and those of us that are in the public eye who have bipolar. You might know of Natasha Tracy. She's one of my favorite writers, and the other day something happened that I wanted to share with you. I went on her Facebook page and I looked at all the articles she writes, and she's written a book, and I thought, Natasha knows something that I don't know. How does she get so much done? How come Natasha can work more than I can? And then I realized, look what my mind was doing. I actually know Natasha. I know that she has the same struggles that I have and that you have. It's just that she's a writer, and when she does work, she writes and she puts it online. We don't know the struggle that's behind it. We don't know how long it takes. Just like there's no way you can know what it takes for me to put together a book proposal once you have the book in your hands. You might think it was very easy. It was not. Some days the best I can do is make a little weird flower arrangement and hope that I can meet my obligations for making a video. That's what I can do, and if that's all I can do, that's what I do. I want to encourage you as a person with bipolar disorder to continue to work. Even if you're on disability, and believe me, disability is work. You had to work hard to get it. You have to work hard to keep it. You have to have a budget. I know how hard it is to be on disability. But we need work. We need to use our creative brains. Volunteer, do small projects. Remember that taking on too much might only make us sick, so start small. And I'd like to end with something that's very close to my heart, that's very hard for people to hear. Yes, I get manic sometimes, and I'll do something weird and crazy for a book. But all of my regular books, plus the one I will write eventually, plus my book proposal, plus all of my articles, are not written when I'm manic. Mania feels like it's helping you get a lot of things done, but in reality it's just a sign that it's illness. I don't like to give in to illness, so I've become slow and methodical in the way I get my work done. I ask for checks and balances. So for example, for the International Bipolar Foundation, they all know all the issues I have with work, so I ask, keep on my case, tell me what you need, what's the deadline? It's okay to write me and tell me if you need something. I have a lot of memory problems. Here's how you can help me. You might see me and you might think, Julie Fast is different than I am. Look at all she gets done. I'm not different from you. Whether you like to work with your hands, whether you're a professional speaker, a teacher, a fabulous volunteer, whether you like to work with animals, you're a writer. Let's say, for example, you're a welder, a construction worker. Maybe you're like my nephew who absolutely loves to do things outside. You have to decide what you want from life and then find a work plan that lets you work around bipolar disorder. Oh, I have not found a way to work through it. I can't bear myself or, punch myself through that bipolar brick wall. It doesn't work. But I can plan ahead. I can stay calm. I can look for information online of how to get things done. I can be proud of what I've accomplished. And I want to end with an interesting story. I do a lot of these books when I'm writing. And one day when I was having trouble with this project, I opened my car door and it was pouring rain. And this book fell into the water. And I watched it slide, and I watched all of my artistic work just turn into what I thought was mush. And then one day I opened it, and it was sort of beautiful. No, it's not easy to work when you have bipolar disorder, especially if you have the kind like I have that's with you every day. But I'm not going to stop. I am not going to let this illness stop me from working. But I'm also not going to work until I get sick. I'm going to find the happy medium. I'll share it with you when I find it. As of now, what it means is going slowly, having a lot of time to myself, accepting the fact that I can't work full time, asking for help, and treating bipolar first. Thank you. This is Julie Fast for the International Bipolar Foundation, and I hope you have a productive day. Thanks.